deny here. So I hope that you can see my screen now. I'm not sure what you're seeing, but you should see my presentation. So I hope this works. I stopped seeing you. So welcome. I'm going to tell you a bit about this story on how butter came to be, like where does the idea coming from, and also how has our team, the product team, worked with our users? How have they captured insights, and how are we still capturing insights today to develop our product further? So let me take you quickly a trip down memory lane and tell you how we got here. So these are our founders, our co-founders, and this is the hustler, hacker, hipster trio. They were just closing off their prior venture that they had called Crux. It was a streaming platform. It didn't go too well. That's why they founded Butter. And they were on the lookout for the next great idea, something that they wanted to build. And then, surprise, surprise, our whole world has changed. COVID happened, the world moved online and virtually, and basically from some companies being remote, we've moved to all the companies being remote. So this was a great opportunity for our team, for the founders team, to start running workshops related to remote work and remote processes. Butter was back then a very small team, but nevertheless a fully remote team, which is how we are distributed today all over the world. So they started running workshops and they started talking about this new challenge that the world was facing. How do we work and collaborate remotely while we're distributed all over the world? And so the tool of choice back then was Zoom. And so they quickly realized after the first couple of workshops that it was really, really hard to host complex meetings, collaborative meetings where everyone is bringing in their ideas and they're at times even building something together. And there were two main reasons for that. So they found out that the energy set very quickly, like it was really hard to keep people engaged, to keep people reacting. It's very hard for themselves as facilitators to see, hey, like, is everyone still with me? Like right now, I don't see you guys, so I'm not even sure, like, are you still with me? Like, are you looking at me? Are your faces like blanked out? Should I emphasize things? Yes, no. And there were also a lot of tech needed to run an engaging session. So basically you go to Zoom and that's where you see the people. But if you would like to, I don't know, work on a whiteboard, that you need a mural or a mural link, and that comes in another tab. And then if you want to run a poll, then you have to go to Mentimeter or other tools. So in order to create that engaging, fun experiences, you kind of like had to be this magician and be able to navigate through a myriad of tools. And obviously when you're facilitating, your focus is on the facilitation, on the dynamics, on people's faces, what's happening, like, are they getting it? And it was actually very complex, and it was taking away the energy from facilitation. And so bing, eureka moment, they had this idea and they said, listen, we are going to try to solve two big problems when it comes to remote facilitation. Removing this technical friction, like how do we make sure that we build a product that even non-facilitators, like anyone, can use, integrate as much as possible in one place as to help people run engaging collaborative sessions. And the second one is building energy and engagement in a virtual setting. So how did they do that? Welcome to Meet Butter. And this was the very first iteration of Butter. We dropped the Meet after a year. It was a very unfortunate name. There's Meet and there's Butter. So it was like a lot of confusion from our users with regards to that. And it was really funny. Not a lot of people know that, but Butter started as a companion app for Zoom. And it was able to do a couple of things. Have participants raise their hands and add themselves into like a speaking queue, show the agenda, like with timers of the blocks of how the session is built, set timers for breaks or small tasks, etc. So it was meant to help users use Zoom in a more efficient way. But they very soon realized that there wasn't enough. So it was kind of like not really matching their vision to what this product could be. And so iterations over iterations, and I'm going to tell you all about that journey, where we started and where we are right now. But basically, they really set out to build the best way to plan and run highly engaging collaborative sessions. And there's a planning part to that, and there's an actual in-session planning to that. So how did we do all that? And what did we learn along the way? So the first thing we do was talk to the people to validate our problem. Like, is this really a problem? Are people, is what they had experienced as challenging, the things that other people are experiencing as challenging as well, which is kind of like the definition of what you guys are doing, I assume. Don't do things that don't scale. And we're going to talk about that. And we build in public, and we're still very much building in public with a lot of things today as well. So talk to people to validate your problem. The team speak to, and we still speak to hundreds of facilitators, and they reached out back then to everyone in their network, and there were like people that were not only working as workshoppers or in designs or with sprints, but also people that were working on learning and development, trainers, educators that were teaching in schools. So they basically approached anyone in their network that was running virtual sessions, workshops, trainings, which was back then in COVID time, as is pretty much still is today, a lot of people, almost everyone. And they started asking around about their pains and showing them the product. So the first iterations of Butter back then. And what is the biggest don'ts when talking to users? So I have a couple of questions here, but since I don't see the chat and I don't see you guys, I'm going to skip them and tell you more about this communication or this user insights steps or phase. So what we really wanted to do in this phase is to identify if there really is a real problem, or is just something that we imagined or we believe it's a challenge. And also, while we do that, and while the team demoed the product, we were hoping to get those early adopters, like the people with whom the product really clicked and they resonated with, and to have our first early users. So a couple of tips here from the team. Remember the mom test. So you really do not want to get your best solutions or ideas, or definitely you're also looking to get challenge, like pushback from users, and have them ask you the tough questions or tell you things as they are or as they perceive it. So if you're just looking for the people that are already in your corner and they already believe in you, you are probably missing out on some critical feedback. So the team really set out to go and talk to strangers, if you like, so people that had no idea who they were or who Butter was. And another critical point here was it's usually quite tempting to start with your idea. So you're showcasing the product and then you're asking, okay, so where does this product fit into, like, do you have a problem that this product might help support with? But what they did is they went the other way around. So they started talking about facilitation in general. How was this move to virtual from offline? What are the challenges? What are the frustrations? And also, how are you currently solving it? And they didn't immediately went to pitching the product. They showcased the product afterwards, after they kind of got in those first insights. And so some important questions or key questions that they find out to be very useful in these early stages interviews was, what is the hardest part about doing the thing that you're trying to solve? Tell me about the last time that you encountered this problem. Why was it hard? Have you done something to try to solve it? Were you successful? If not, why not? If yes, why yes? And why don't you love the solution that you've already tried? So there was like a lot of general open-ended questions geared towards the root problems and issues. Do things that don't scale. And this is something that pretty much still holds valid today at Butter. And I'm going to tell you how we're doing that today and how that translates to our actions today. But basically, at the very beginning, you really start one-to-one, going to your network, going to different communities, talking to different people, have your network recommended to other people, potential users, different facilitators, design sprinters, educators, trainers, is like small companies that are working in the field of facilitation, strategy design, innovation, consulting, etc. And so they literally went and they have this one-on-one interviews, and that's a practice that still happens today. So Chris, our CPO, still has weekly one-to-ones product related calls with users, and he's picking them up from intercom, from feedback, from social media. Like, he's capturing them and talking to them, bringing them in a session, in a call, to just listen to their issues, their pains, and what they're facing on a daily basis. So you are our CEO, Jacob, our CTO, like everyone in the team is still very much active on intercom. So the whole Butter team, we're working with a schedule and everyone answers intercom tickets. We're taking feedback, we're working with tags. So we're really making sure we get a lot of feedback. So what do you do with all that data, right? Because we're doing interviews, there's intercom, there's the community now, and I can tell you more about that. So how do we capture all that data, put it in a place, and try to make sense of that? And I have some tips or stuff that we've been doing that are working really well for us. And there's this very high touch at the beginning, very personal follow-up emails, sending links, going back to the person, taking mental notes. If someone said, I'm going to use Butter next week in a workshop, you're taking a mental note, you're like putting it on a post-it, you're putting it in your calendar, and then you go back to the person a week from now. It's like, oh, by the way, how was your workshop? Can you tell me more about it? How was the experience? So this is why I say do things that don't scale, because on a long term, I guess that it's very hard to do. But for the beginning, that was very crucial for Butter. And then we reached out and ask these people to give us a hand to find our potential customers or people that might face the issue we're trying to solve in other communities, in other user groups, etc. So here are a couple of other companies that have started this the same way, and I'm not going to go and read through all of this because I'm sure that we can send you the slides afterwards. But Intercom was doing that. Asana, it started as well with like the first 15 users. They received a lot of love. There was a really strong connection with them there at the beginning. Dropbox as well, and Figma, which used Twitter in a very innovative way to find early potential users, testers, people that might give feedback too. So the recruiting and building the light and creating this early feedback loop was and still is very crucial for the way we develop product at Butter. And we've learned that the approach was slightly different between the 10, 100, or 1,000 customers. We need different approaches. So early requires being scrappy, and scrappiness is still very much in our DNA. Like even right now, we are shipping features out very fast. We're very much aware that's the 1.0 version, and then we go back to our users after we put it out there, and we bring them in and we ask for feedback and we iterate like super fast afterwards. So how do we tap into our personal network? How do we go actively approaching people on Twitter, on LinkedIn, through the events that we were doing, etc. It's not about the product; it's about the experience of being your user, and this is something that it's kind of reassuring, especially if you're going with this scrappiness mentality of putting things out there that are probably not perfect. You know that there's a lot of work still to be done, but you want to get it out there really early and fast to get feedback and get that validation and make sure that you're moving in the right direction. And so if you can and should try to give users an insanely great experience with an early, incomplete, and sometimes buggy product, because you are making up in attentiveness. So that personal touch, that going back to people, that it is insane how many of our users know Jacob and have talked to him, our CEO, and he's jumping into demos and he's doing group demos and he's jumping into sessions, and he is absolutely a hero when it comes to communicating or keeping in touch with our users. And very, very important for us still right now, like 2 years in, feedback to improve your product. It is for now at the moment more important and more valuable than growth. So it's because we believe that it's best to keep to improve on a leaky bucket than to keep filling on that bucket and have it like go like have the water waste away. Yes, and the third one is building in public, and here we have a couple of examples. And these are things that are as simple as a tweet or as complex as going and doing talks and really being very generous with sharing our processes, writing articles, and so on. And a couple of examples are we've built our community completely in public. So when I joined Butter, there was no community, and my role was to build it from scratch. And the first thing I did was to take 3 very cool facilitators at my side, and with them approach other 100 facilitators in order to run 3 workshops with them on co-creating the community space, and that was an amazing experience. And everything, like that entire process, is out there for the world to see, like the workshops we've run, the process we went through, and so on. The same, as I said, like Jacob is like constantly turning into his network, LinkedIn, for feedback, and the replies are always very inspirational and very rich in insights. The same, we also have a Slack ideas engine. We try to actually pack in that Slack channel any kind of ideas that either we have or we hear it from our users. And I think we're quite privileged now to have several user feedback incoming gates, if you want, or like sources of information. User interviews, they're ongoing. They are increasing in frequency whenever we are preparing for a new feature, a bigger release, etc. Otherwise, this is a constant, like it happens constantly. The product design team has interviews on a weekly basis with different people. The intercom that I've mentioned, social media, and now we have the community, which is, besides the fact that it allows people, it creates that space for people to actually go and wish for features through the feature wish list, or ask questions about Butter when they can't figure out stuff, or share how they're using Butter and how they're hacking it, right? So there are spaces for that, and that it's all happening asynchronously. Our community events are an incredible source of insights and information on how different facilitators are using the tool, what are the challenges they're facing, what are the challenges that participants are facing when they're joining a session, etc. So we take all of those feedbacks that are coming from different places, and we pack them all through Slack, through different channels like ideas, customer feedback, and inputs, etc. And through automations, they're all captured in Notion, tagged appropriately, and very easy for the product team to go back to and prioritize. Yeah, so users know their problem best. I guess I don't have to. I feel like I'm preaching to the converted, right? So involve them in developing the ideas that fuel the solution. There's here this kind of contrast or conflict, if you like. So you listen to feedback, but one has to be also very careful. What do we do with that feedback, and how much do we let that feedback sway us? And I guess that it's a very fine line, and the balance is very challenging to keep at times, because we're listening to those ideas, and then you have to be very careful. Is every idea worth a change in the product? Like, which one's more important than the other? And how do we make sure that we actually tackle the ideas that are or the challenges or the needs of the majority of our users, right? So how do we do that? And we've learned that we have to take obviously when you get feedback about something you're building, it's very close to your heart. So we kind of like, it feels very, oh, someone wants this, let's do it, and can we do it, and can we change it? So it can become quite a whirlpool that takes you to different places if you're not careful, right? If you want to make everyone happy. And we decided, and we're very mindful about letting that feedback inspire us and inform us, but don't let it dictate what the solution should be at all times. And sometimes by going and asking more people about it, we discover, oh, that's actually a very isolated case. So we have to cluster the feedback as well. Yeah, and so there's so many creative ways also to get ideas from people. So really our goal is to find as many as possible, from bringing people into the same room to ideate, to interviews, to async, to email, like feedback, etc. And we're even sometimes even hosting events with different communities where we the session is inviting participants to break the tool or try to put it apart and see what is it that they don't like. So we take insights and feedback from a lot of different places. So what have all these insights and the building in public and talking to our users and this very high touch approach, what is it bringing to us? And we went from the 1.0 to 2.0 version of Butter and beyond. When we started, Butter was really focused on the in-session experience of pretty much what's happening now, what's happening in the chat, how do we queue to communicate when we want to contribute an idea, how do we integrate with as many whiteboards, tools, collaborative tools as possible, so we don't have to leave Butter and actually be able to stay in the same room and work on a mural board and still see each other and still react with sounds and emojis and so on to kind of like express our emotions related to the content and what's happening in the session. So we were very much focused on that part. And a couple of months ago, we had a massive release of the planning of the session. So that was a very, very big release on the agenda planner. And that's actually helping facilitators plan a whole workshop in Butter, in a room, in an agenda planner. And in the session, a poll, a mural board, a breakout, a spotlight are as easy as a click of a button. So we reduce the complexity of what's happening in session by adding a different stage of a product, which is the workshop planning stage, what happens prior to the session. We are a fully remote team, so you can imagine that being close to users and talking to people with genuine care and openness and transparency, transparency is very critical for us. We're very open to what we can do, what we can't do, what we won't do, because that's not our vision for the product, for example. It creates this excitement of who Butter is and who are these people as a company and who are they as a team. So we're a fully remote distributed team from we have colleagues from 13 different countries and still growing. The Butter Love, exactly what I was mentioning, it's a very sticky product, and if you connect to people at a human level, people will talk about you, people will tag you, people will mention you in different rooms and places and communities that you haven't even thought possible or thought they exist. And obviously also hopefully continue growing through that. That's it from my side. Do you have any questions? Yes, people are still here. That's awesome.
Thank you. This is awesome.
I'm not a UX
audience...
person at all. So I'm like, am I mentioning everything? Am I really like adding value to these people? Is anything interesting from what I mentioned? So should
Well, I feel like being UX person is more of an attitude than a job title. So I think you're doing just fine. Does anybody have a question in the audience? I do. Yes, there's a hand up. I can't see who it is. Too many people in the crowd. Speak freely, sir. Oh, or he chatted, I guess. I don't know if you can read that. So Sam says, I love that you're constantly asking the user, but with so much input across the board, is there a final say about what to act on? Very good question, sir.
Yeah, so I mentioned that all of this feedback, it's amazing, but it's for us, it was crucial to be able to cluster that or capture or gather that from all these different sources. Things are getting through email, through chats, through conversations, through events, through community, through intercom. So we now have a very good automated workflow that captures all of those insights, and we're working with tags, so we do see the weight of that feedback and in which that direction that goes. And yes, there's always a final say, and that is our founders team and the product team and our CTO. So they are the ones looking at feedback and deciding, is this crucial? Is this nice to have? Is this for now? What does strategically make sense to focus on next? What comes in 6 months from now? What comes in a year from now, etc.
Very cool. I have a question. It seems generic, but it isn't, because you talked so much about learnings. What's the one thing you wish you knew earlier? Like, what's the key learning you made along the way? Not necessarily in terms of your product, but in terms of, how to incorporate feedback, where you'd say, "Well, this is the biggest learning. Wish I knew that earlier, so we'd be faster or cheaper or whatnot."
Yeah. So this is my opinion. It might be that someone from the team might have a whole different opinion to this. I I because we were so close to people, we haven't missed on a lot of like key feedback, or we don't feel that we're building towards a direction that is like very foreign to people, and people are looking at our product and they'll say like, why are you doing that? And actually, I guess one of the biggest compliments that we're always getting is, I feel that Butter is built with the facilitator in mind. And that's we don't talk about that, but that's what we're actually doing. So to see our users say that it's a confirmation that we're doing the right thing. And I guess something that we were and that's still pending to be seen. We've launched our mobile app last week. So that was a very big ask from a lot of people. And at the beginning, we were quite like pulling back, because we had this view of, but Butter is this tool for collaborative sessions where you have to work on a Miro board and you get stuff done and you're prototyping and you're working. So we didn't really saw it as this just simple, there we go, yes, webinar kind of.
It's got 2 stars. I'll rate that
No.
up.
So it's
Not 2 stars. Sorry, it has 2 ratings with 5 stars. Sorry,
so
big mistake.
oh wow, that's not good. So it's we launched the app just last week, and so this is still something to be confirmed. Did we launch the app too late? Was it something that we kind of like slept on because we thought that, well, it's not what Butter is intended for? And we are very excited at this idea of a new world of opportunities for people to use Butter in maybe ways that we haven't thought of. So yes, I would probably say yes. Like, should have we like launched the app 6 months ago? Maybe yes, maybe no. That's still to be seen.
Very cool. Sorry, not 2 stars. 2 5-star ratings. That is a big difference. Thank you very much. Is there any more questions from the audience? Okay. Oh, there is another. Oh, I knew that would come. Vitaly, tell us.
I'm the only guy asking questions all the time in our internal meetings. Hi. First of all, huge fan, Anamaria. I told you already multiple times. Me as a facilitator, I love the way how you work with users, involve them in the community as well on Circle. That's sort of just something I'd like to share, sort of a free source of feedback that's super valuable for both sides. Maybe you could say a few words about the community itself, because it's sort of part of your daily work. How to do that bit?
Yeah. So community is my thing. That's what I do. And so a community came for Butter after a several months MVPing with events. So Cheska started running events bi-weekly on LinkedIn, inviting several hosts, and she saw that there are people recurrently joining those events. So she said, oh, wait, there's something here. And this is when I came on board and started working on the community. And the community is a very interesting one because it's a hybrid community. So might be counterintuitive for some people. Like sometimes I get to ask that question a lot. It is both a user community, so people who use Butter, pay for Butter, and also a non-user community. Facilitators that are doing their thing and they're using their tool of choice. And it might not be Butter. It might be Butter in 6 months. It might never be Butter. They're welcome in the community because it's a community of practice and learning. And that might sound counterintuitive, but we're learning so much from the people that are not using Butter. So they are we're tapping into the people that are still on the side. They are involved in the community. They're hosting events. They want to learn. They want to share. And then it's a great opportunity to go back to them and say, you're finding the space valuable, but you're not using Butter. Why is that? You're a facilitator. So that feedback, it's already, because we have that genuine trust connection, like we've been working together, we've been collaborating, we've been sharing. That feedback is pure, honest feedback that comes from the heart, and it's a very valuable source. Besides the platform that usually, I guess, every community has, that you're offering your users a platform where they can meet with like-minded people, where they can answer each other's questions, where they can ask questions about the tool, and we're constantly there. Like it's a platform besides our intercom where someone will answer your question in the next, like in 10 minutes tops, if not sooner. It's just a great way to see where people's heads are and what's happening. And a very important thing related to the community, and probably linked to your questions before, Teal, of what is it that probably we would have wished to know sooner or do sooner. That is customer education. Butter is so different than other video conferencing tools. And probably when you hear about it, you're thinking, oh, it's yet another Zoom and it's yet another team. It's so much more than that. And we have a couple of features that are truly unique and no other tool out there has it. So for people, when they landed Butter, might feel overwhelming, they might feel a lot, they don't have previous behaviors from other tools that they've previously used that they can rely on. So that's when customer education becomes crucial. And Circle allows us to do that through the events, through our super users that are supporting new users, through the knowledge base that we can build there, the video library, etc. So it's a great source where we send new users to get educated and get the support they need to get started.